Hey guys, it's Reagan, and today I'm going to be talking about Bloodline by Claudia Gray. This is a Star Wars novel in canon, and this takes place before The Force Awakens. So it came out a little while ago, but I think it's important. I found a lot of things in this book, and what I'm going to be talking about today is kind of important to Kylo Ren, kind of knowing more of him as a character by studying his parents and kind of their mannerisms and characteristics in this. And it was kind of fascinating to see Leia as a senator and kind of see the ideology more of it that the First Order has and kind of see how it grew. That takes place in this novel. And it's just kind of interesting to see what led, the events that led up to The Force Awakens. So it was interesting to me. Of course, I read it and I noticed a lot of things and parallels to things we've seen in leaks for episode 9. And also some redemption arcs and stuff like that. So let's get started with this analysis. So basically, let me tell you the general gist. So in the beginning of this novel, Leia's in the Senate of the New Republic. Well, the whole time she's in the Senate. So in this novel, Leia's in the Senate of the New Republic. She's a senator. She's part of the populace. And the other party is the centrist. And these people are two polar opposites. These parties do not know what bipartisan is. They are just crazy, totally polarized. We've seen that before. But anyway, so it's kind of interesting because you know what they remind me of? The Anti-Federalist and the Federalist. If you know American history. And if you don't, sorry, if you're not from America, let me just educate you briefly. So basically, the populists believe that the government should be kind of weak, the central government should be weak, and each planet should have its own government, like how the Anti-Federalists believe that the state government should have more power and the main government should just kind of be weak and just provide them aid when needed and just go over state to state affairs. But the centrists believe that the central government should be the biggest government and then they should control all the planets, and so they should have a big central government. Like the Federalists, who believe that the national government should be really big and they don't really take much from the states and they have most of the control. So it's kind of interesting to see this polar opposites. Of course, in the centrist, there's some shadiness going on because the First Order is kind of building up on the back burner. And what's happening in this novel, you kind of see the First Order build up because they're funded through a crime. The crime syndicate is kind of the front that they channel their money through that just magically popped up and it was bigger than the Hutts. And so Leia's like, that's suspicious. So she does this whole investigation, basically finds First Order warriors, ships, and kind of finds out more about that. She doesn't really, we never get to a point, which is kind of sad for me, in this novel that you see any of the higher ups like Snoke. You do see a senator, a centrist senator, kind of in their infiltration. You don't really see much of the bigger players in this, so that's kind of sad. But it is kind of fascinating. It's neat to see the politics in this novel kind of play out. So that's basically the gist of it. And then there's a lot of just craziness that goes on. So So I took this opportunity to analyze and just kind of look at Leia and Han's characters and just really look at Leia as a character because I love character development. But anyway. So in the beginning of the novel, what's interesting, Leia says that for most people, the war is a distant memory. Most of these people were young when the Battle of Endor took place, or they weren't born yet, so they don't really remember it. It's not really that fresh to them. So it's easy to see how history is repeating itself, like with the First Order and the Empire. Also, what I found fascinating, in the beginning of the novel, Leia goes back to this memory where she is with Han and Ben was just born and Han has Ben in his arms and he's like, I never even imagined wanting a kid or having a kid. And Leia's like, to think one day you might be a grandfather, which is wild that she says this to me because I'm like, why would... Okay, that's an interesting thing to just be like, whatever. But anyway, so then Han says, honey, I'm never gonna live to be that old. And I was like, oh! He's like, I'm like, great, that's crazy. I'm dead in a ditch. Because, of course, he died. But also, there could still be grandchildren on the horizon. In my belief, obviously, the next trilogy of saga films is probably going to be about Rey and Kylo Ren's children. I feel like that's kind of a given at this point. I mean, where else could they really take it? be like, oh, we're just gonna have Poe and his kids, I don't know. Because you still have to kind of connect it to the Skywalker saga. And they say that this episode 9 is the end of the Skywalker legacy, but you know, it ain't true, because the Skywalker legacy makes them a lot of money. So we've already kind of discussed this. But anyway, so I thought that was kind of fascinating to see. Also, just kind of a little character arc, like, Han didn't really want children, then he had Ben, he's like, what? Like, he wasn't, I still kind of think that Han wasn't the best suited to be a father, and I think we kind of know that. But also, talking about Han, so throughout the novel, Leia, like, video chats with Han, you know how that works in Star Wars. So she video chats with him. It's not as intimate as a Force bond, like, they're not, like, materializing, but, you know, using actual technology. So they talk about it, and she's like, oh, I have to be, she ends up being the nomination for the populace to be the first senator, which is a new role they came up with, to be kind of a leader of the Senate, and she kind of takes it because she's popular, and she can really win the election, and she doesn't want a centrist to be in that position. So she's telling Han, and he kind of gets disappointed, and he's like, you always put duty first, which is kind of a key element in Leia's character, because let's think about it, she's been a junior senator since she was like 14, and then she got all in this rebellion, and then she's always been in politics, so you can kind of see how maybe Ben kind of felt secondary, because as Han says it, you put duty first. And so I think that's why we kind of have some tension in the relationships between Han and Leia. Like, they're separated basically for this whole novel, because Han is doing like the saber races, and Han is a mentor to these young pilots, and he teaches them things that he would like to teach Ben, as it says. And that's kind of interesting to me, because it's like Han, I think the problem with Han and Ben is that Han kind of wanted to be a father, but he didn't really know and didn't really understand Ben because he doesn't have the Force, and I think that was kind of a problem with their relationship. So I think that's why he kind of went to be a mentor to these pilots, to kind of fill that void and feel like, if I can't help my own son, I'll help these other young kids. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but it just kind of shows Leia and Han as parents probably weren't the best, and probably made Ben kind of feel secondary at times. And I do really need to read The Last Shot. I need to get on that, but I probably will read it soon in the upcoming feature. Also, what's interesting is Leia ends up like being assigned, like teaming up with this centrist senator, Ransom Castrofo. I feel like I'm saying that wrong, but whatever. And so he kind of butts heads with Leia because he's obviously a centrist, and she goes into his office and realizes that he has like stormtrooper helmets, like relics from the Empire, and she's like, oh my god, what the heck, this guy's psycho. But he's basically like, look, I like the idea of the Empire, I just don't, he doesn't really like the evil overlords, like he didn't support the Emperor or Vader, of course, because what happened with him is he was on Rioja, and the Empire took over that world and basically enslaved the people, made them work in these factories, worked them to the bone, and Vader was kind of the overlord of these factories and treated people terribly. He was force choking his parents, Castro's parents. It's crazy. Terrible conditions. And so he hates Vader with a passion. So what I find interesting about that whole thing with Rioja is that that's kind of what, like, one of the leaks said for episode 9, that there will be factories that the First Order uses and kind of treats and enslaves these people to build up materials for them. And I think that's kind of an interesting little thing, and that's maybe why the leak seemed more legit, because they're actually using elements from canon. But if that does happen in episode 9, well, here's the parallel. It happened in Bloodlines and it happened in the Empire. So that was kind of interesting there. And so because he's sharing this, and he and Leia eventually become friends throughout this missions that they accomplish, and she realizes that he's an honorable man, he just has different political beliefs than her. And she tells them about how Vader tortured her while she was a prisoner, and how it was awful and all this stuff. And so he was basically like, well, you paranoia must have got you through the war. But she was like, no, what she thought to herself, she was like, no, what really got me through the war was friendship and love. And I feel like that's a key element to think about, because we've seen already in The Force Awakens, in The Last Jedi, we've seen a lot of like friendship, like between Rey and Finn, Poe and Finn, like Finn just being friends with everyone else. You know, there's been a lot of friendship there that I think really does help each other out, and I think that's really is what's getting them through there, but also love. I think that's really important. Like, ultimately, like, there's always a love story central to each trilogy, and it really just is essential. And so what's fascinating about that is I'm like, okay, this is how they're going to get through episode 9. Of course, like, all the friendships, which you've already kind of established, and love. Rey and Kylo, because, like, duh, Reylo, I ship it. But then also, so that kind of goes along with the quote that Rose says at the end of The Last Jedi, we're not going to win by destroying what we hate. We're going to win by saving what we love. So, there you go. So, like I said, that's obvious. Like, that was very dramatic. Like, that quote meant something. So, Rey and Kylo in-game saving the galaxy, episode 9. Okay, whatever. Down that road again. But the big thing, the big, like, climax of the story is it is revealed that what happens is that the First Order senator, the one that is part of the First Order, like, trying to get all that stuff done, comes across a memory box that Bail Organa made to Leia, and Bail Organa tells Leia that Vader is her father. So, this girl, of course, is like, whatever. She's like, I gotta save my skin, gotta save the First Order, don't want Leia to do whatever. To discover more, she needs to have, like, no influence so Leia they can stop Leia from discovering more of the First Order. So she tells Castropo. Castropo's like, what? Like, I trust this woman. Her father's literally the most evil man ever. And so he reveals in front of the whole Senate that Leia is Vader's daughter, and it goes crazy. All hell breaks loose. And what's terrible is that Leia has not told Ben. So what's great is that he probably finds out as a news report throughout, like, the galaxy, because it goes everywhere. Like, it's big news. And Leia's like, oh my god. Like, she's like, I haven't even told my son. She's freaking out about it. She sends a video to him, like, crying. But the main thing about this is it's just crazy. She isn't, like, she's thinking about this earlier than all. She's like, I don't know what that truth would do to Ben. It's crazy that she hasn't told him. Ben, remember, at this point is, like, fully grown. And I just think it's nuts. Like, come on. Like, the best time to tell him when he's, like, 10 years old, like, you have the birds and bees, like, conversation. Then you're like, oh, and by the way, your grandfather is Darth Vader, and he's a terrible person. But let me tell you the real important part of his story. As Leia says, she's like, the most important part of the story is he got redeemed in the end. So, you know, hashtag Ben Solo Redemption, as I have on my lucky sticker that says, make Kylo Ben again, because it's right. Also, all these stickers are from Redbubble. Link down below for my affiliate link. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, I'm not sponsored. No coupon code there. You see my subscriber count? Like I would get sponsorship. Anyway, so I think that was kind of a crucial point. Like, okay, I see why Kylo Ren doesn't really trust his parents when they kept that big of a secret from him his whole life. Like, and then Snoke's like, oh, well, yeah, so come hop over here. I won't lie to you. I'll tell you the straight up truth. So, you know, that's kind of gets more backstory there. So, I thought that was kind of interesting. And, yeah, so basically, that's my thoughts on Bloodline. I really did enjoy it. I think you should read it if you really kind of want to see kind of where the First Order kind of through the ground up. We never see any of Snoke, which kind of makes me sad, but whatever. Anyway, so I really did enjoy it. I thought it was interesting to see some of the parallels, and I'm excited. Like I said, I'm excited for episode 9. We got like over 500 days till it comes, and I mean, I'm gonna keep analyzing stuff while we wait, but you know how it is. So if you like this video, please like it. Also, please subscribe if you haven't already. So thanks guys for watching, and goodbye.